Hi YouTube, it's Kathy. Today I'll be reviewing the book Vagina, a New Biography by Naomi Wolfe as part of the Banging Book Club. I'll put all the information about the book club down below. I've been really dreading doing this video because I've been socialized to believe that if you don't have something nice to say, you should say nothing at all. However, that's kind of a terrible life lesson and probably just a way that parents try to shut up their kids. So, no, I'm gonna say something. It took me a really long time to finish reading this book because I really didn't enjoy it whatsoever. I probably wouldn't have finished it if I hadn't had to read it for a book club. Originally, I was excited to read this book because I knew a friend of mine had read it, and I hold their opinion in high regard, so I figured it was probably a good book. However, I found out after talking to them after the first chapter that they read it as kind of a know your enemy type of read. Eventually I got to a point where I started writing down direct quotes from it just so I could have something to talk about in this video. I just don't even know where to start. I don't know. Occasionally while I was reading I wrote down some direct quotes from the book, so I'm just going to go through those as kind of a way to show you all of the weird and cringeworthy things that were in this book. On page 56 it reads, "So in this way, the vagina is the delivery system for the states of mind that we call confidence, liberation, self-realization, and even mysticism in women." This is a really good example of how this book is full of a lot of hippie bullshit. At this point, the author's talking about the nervous system and how the brain is connected directly to the vagina, but if you think about it, the brain is connected to every part of your body. On page 57, there was a quote that was basically an entire paragraph that I just shook my head at, so I'm gonna have to read it directly from the book. "A woman with low dopamine will have low libido and depression, as we noted. On the other hand, if you're a woman and your dopamine levels are optimally activated, you will be confident, creative, and sociable. You'll have strong opinions, clear boundaries, and you will take pride in your own work. You will experience feelings of well-being and satisfaction, have a sense of directedness and persistence in accomplishing tasks, experience strong feelings towards others, make sound choices, and have realistic expectations." I can't even read the whole paragraph to you. I can't. No. Having one chemical perfectly balanced in your body is not going to automatically, magically open everything up to you and just give you the world on a silver platter. That's not how it works. On page 59, the author repeatedly uses the phrases female brain. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. There's not a female brain and a male brain. There's not just females and males. It's not a thing. On page 69, the author makes the argument that women are dependent on men because of biology. To my knowledge, and I did try to read really closely, there was no point in this book where the author mentioned that there are women or people that have vaginas who have no desire to have sex, or just have a lower desire to have sex. The author kept making the case that if women are working properly, their chemicals are working properly, they're obviously going to want all of the sex. On page 76, the author says women can be more like mystics than men are, which is just more hippie bullshit. And you know what? Chapter 6 was actually interesting. It was terrible history of torture, basically, to females throughout the ages, but at least it was interesting. That part was well researched, and you didn't bring all of your voodoo mysticism crap into it. And then I didn't write notes for a while because I was just too exhausted with all of the everything. On page 217, and this is an actual quote, "A happy heterosexual vagina requires, to state the obvious, a virile man." Can we note back to that part where there's people who are asexual or people somewhere on the asexual spectrum who don't want sex, therefore don't need a virile man? The major thesis of this book seems to be that creativity comes directly from the vagina. As much as I expected this book to have the kind of standpoint of people are people and we shouldn't speak in generalities about them, she uses a lot of anecdotes, and they really just rub you the wrong way, make it feel as though she's just classifying people into certain sets. The paragraph at the top of page 263 really deals in generalization and uses an anecdote to generalize people, basically stating that women feel that they can't get a manly man, which is what they want, because they're using too much of their masculine energy. On 283, this is a direct quote, "Straight men would do well to ask themselves, do I want to be married to a goddess or a bitch? Unfortunately, there is not, physiologically, much middle ground available for women." Like everything in life, women are complex. You can't just say there's no middle ground between women being bitches or women being goddesses. On page 311, she tells another anecdote about a friend who was with a man, was very happy with all the sex they were having, but was growing increasingly unhappy because he never told her that she was pretty or beautiful. And it goes on to talk about how men need to tell women they're beautiful so that they will continue to want to have sex with them, because if they're not told that they're beautiful, then they'll just shut down sexually. My response to this is there's this thing called communication that your friend could have tried, like, talking to her lover about her insecurities and about how she would like to be called pretty. Might have helped. On 319, she makes a case that women have a monthly need for drama. Again, stop generalizing women. I don't know about everybody else out there that has a vagina, but my monthly need is not for drama, it's for chocolate and red wine. And the last note that I wrote down is that on page 324, she suggests that it seems that the old folk wisdom of just have sex until you want to have sex may have some biochemical foundation to it. Really, Naomi Wolfe, do we need to have a conversation about consent and enthusiastic consent and not just having sex because your partner wants to have sex? Do we really need to have that? I had a great chuckle to myself while I was reading this book because I tweeted a picture of it while I was reading it on vacation for my Wednesday tradition, and Naomi Wolfe favorited the tweet and then started following me. So if she's still following me when this video comes out and she happens to see it, that's going to be nice and awkward. I mentioned earlier how I had a friend who read this book, and I thought based on that fact that it would actually be a good book. And I reached out to that friend for this video, just kind of wanting another perspective. Now this friend, my friend Gray, is non-binary and the owner of a vagina, if that makes any difference to their opinion. And I just want to read exactly what they wrote back to me when I asked for their input. It's been a while since I read it, to be honest. Like a few years, so I can't remember much other than being fucking disgusted by her association of femininity and being a woman entirely with orgasms and wombs and other such shit. It's deeply transphobic, and even deeply isolation for a bunch of women who don't identify their femininity with any of those things at all. It ends up leaving toward sexist as fuck, ironically. Telling women that their value, worth, and identity should somehow be tied inextricably to their bodies. She's transphobic and an ignorant, airy-fairy bigot. Thank you, Gray, for summing it up in a way I just couldn't get my brain around. There's a link to Gray's Tumblr down below. One of the things about this book is you can tell it's highly researched, but I feel like a lot of the data used was highly cherry-picked to come around this whole woo-hoo mysticism, creativity comes from the vagina, bollocks, that's... You know what, I just can't even talk about this book anymore. If you want to read an actual good scientific book about the vagina, read Bonk, The Curious Coupling of Science and Sex. That one has tons of research in it and doesn't just tell you that you have to really enjoy using your vagina all the time to be a woman and be creative. On that note, I'm going to end this incredibly awkward edition of the Banging Book Club. If you've read this book, please leave your comments down below. If you haven't read this book, don't waste your time. On the way down to the comment section, you can always subscribe. That would be nice of you. You can like and share this video as you see fit, and I will see you later. Bye!